It started like any other Saturday. I was sipping my coffee, ready to enjoy a quiet morning, when I looked out the window and nearly dropped my mug. Right there on my front lawn were chairs, a flower arch, tables with white linens, and at least 50 strangers setting up what looked like a full-on wedding. I blinked, thinking maybe I was seeing things. But no, it was real. A whole wedding party, complete with caterers and a DJ, just casually helping themselves to my property, without so much as a knock on the door. At first, I thought maybe it was a mix-up, like they had the wrong address or something. So I walked out to talk to someone, still trying to be polite. But the moment I asked what was going on, the bride's mother gave me this annoyed look, like I was the one interrupting that big day. She actually waved me off and said, "We'll be out by sunset." No apology, no explanation. Just assumed they could throw a wedding on someone else's land like it was no big deal. Here's a twist though, they had no clue what they'd walked into. See, lease that open field to a local helicopter tour company. And guess what was scheduled for that very afternoon? Yep, a series of low-flying helicopters, taking off and landing right where they set up the buffet . It's not just a lawn, it's an active landing zone. I tried to warn them, told them it wasn't safe, told them they needed to move. But they didn't listen. They just kept setting up, laughing, taking selfies, acting like it was the set of a Hallmark movie. Meanwhile, I was standing there trying to figure out how this was going to end, and wondering if I should even stop what was about to happen. Because once those helicopters showed up, let's just say things didn't stay peaceful for long. Now, to really understand how wild this whole situation was, you need a bit of context. That field, they assumed, was just a pretty backyard. It's about 5 acres of open grass that don't even use as a yard. I rent it out to a helicopter tour company that runs flights all weekend long. We're just outside the city, and people love getting aerial views of the skyline, the river, and especially during sunset hours. It's a busy setup, and they land there about every 30 minutes on the dot. I've got a signed lease, proper clearance, everything legal. So yeah, not exactly a place you want to set up a champagne table and a wedding cake. But these people, completely clueless. From what I could gather, the bride was a friend of someone who used to live in the area. They had visited once, saw the open space, and just assumed it was public or abandoned. And instead of trying to contact me, or anyone, for that matter, they just decided it was the perfect rustic venue. I mean, who does that? They even hired a wedding planner, a photographer, the whole 9 yards. And somehow, no one along the way thought, hey, maybe we should double-check if this land belongs to someone . The wildest part was how committed they were to pretending it was all normal. Like, I kept thinking someone would finally come up to me and say, "Was so sorry, we didn't realize." But nope. Everyone acted like I was the one crashing that event. The DJ actually asked me to move my car because it ruined the backdrop for photos. And every time I brought up the helicopters, they either ignored me or told me not to worry about it. One guy even laughed and said, "That'll just make it more dramatic." Meanwhile, I was watching the clock tick closer to the first flight of the day, knowing what was coming. The sound, the wind, the sudden chaos. And as the first rumbles started in the distance, nobody out there had a clue what was about to happen. As that first helicopter came into view, slicing through the sky with its familiar whoop whoop whoop, I could already feel the tension in my chest. I wasn't worried about the pilots, they knew what they were doing. But I was worried about the dozens of guests standing right in the middle of an active landing zone, completely unaware. People were wandering around in fancy dresses and suits, sipping cocktails and tossing flower petals, as if the giant metal bird descending toward them was some kind of background prop. The roto wash hit first. Napkins, paper programs, even a few flower arrangements went flying. A couple of guests shrieked and ducked. But instead of realizing they were in danger, most of them just laughed. Some actually pulled out their phones to record it. The photographer looked thrilled. "What timing!" he shouted, as if I'd personally arranged a dramatic wind machine just for their photo shoot. I ran over to the wedding planner, trying one last time to explain. "Listen," I said, raising my voice over the noise. "This field is *leased*. These helicopters are scheduled all day *. You need to move. Now." She looked flustered, clutching her clipboard like it was a life raft. "We can't relocate now. The ceremony is starting in 10 minutes. I couldn't believe it. I tried pointing toward the sky, but she just turned and walked off, yelling something about timeline adjustments. Meanwhile, the helicopter pilot made the smart call and pulled up, circling away instead of landing. But that bought me maybe 30 minutes. Then the next flight was coming in, and the one after that. Each delay meant more stress on their schedule, more fuel burned, more risk. The company called me, asking what was going on. I tried to explain, but it sounded ridiculous even as I said it out loud. A random wedding was blocking their landing zone. From another angle, I could see the bride now, posing dramatically under the flower arch, veil blowing like crazy from the leftover wind. She didn't look worried at all. In fact, she looked thrilled. But as more guests arrived and the music started playing, I knew this wasn't going to blow over quietly. The helicopters weren't going to just disappear. And this dream wedding was about to collide head-on with reality. By now, everything felt like it was spinning out of control. The wedding music had started, some soft piano tune playing from a Bluetooth speaker near the arch, and guests were settling into their chairs like nothing was wrong. The bride stood at the top of a makeshift aisle, smiling like she was about to step into a fairy tale. But above it all, the low hum of another helicopter was already building. This one wasn't circling. It was coming in low, expecting a clear landing spot. I waved my arms, motioning toward the sky, hoping someone would finally snap out of it. A few people turned and gave me confused looks. Someone else shouted, "Get out of the way." And a guy holding a camera gestured for me to move so I wouldn't ruin the shot. I couldn't believe it. The ground was literally vibrating from the blades getting closer, and they were worried about wedding photos. Back at the edge of the property, the helicopter company crew had shown up in a truck, trying to figure out what to do. One of the guys looked at me and said, "We can't cancel the rest of the day. We've got 4 more groups booked, and one of them's already late." I could hear the frustration in his voice. These flights weren't cheap, and they were running a real business. I was stuck in the middle. Angry wedding guests on one side, nervous pilots on the other, and no one willing to back down. Then came the breaking point. As the second chopper made its final approach, the wind kicked up harder than before. Tablecloths flew. A few decorative vases toppled. The floral arch shook. People started shouting, ducking, holding onto their drinks. The officiant nearly lost his script. The bride's veil was yanked clean off her head and spun into the air like a kite. Still, no one moved. No one stopped the ceremony. They were trying to push through it like this was some epic outdoor adventure instead of a full-blown safety hazard. And me. I stood there, heart pounding, watching the blades lower over the horizon, wondering just how close things would get before someone realized this was never going to work. Just when I thought things couldn't get more out of control, the second plot twist hit, and it hit hard. Right as the helicopter veered off again to avoid landing, someone from the wedding party finally snapped. It was the groom's uncle, or at least that's who someone said he was. He stormed over to me, red-faced and loud, yelling that I was ruining the most important day of his nephew's life. "This is public land," he shouted. "You don't this." That's when it clicked. Somehow, someone had spread the idea that this field was part of a public park. That would explain why no one was taking me seriously. They didn't think they were trespassing. They thought I was just some neighbor trying to crash their party. I tried explaining again, but this property was privately owned and leased to a helicopter company, and that the helicopters had full legal rights to use it. But he wasn't having it. He got in my face, and I could see a few other guests watching, phones out, already recording. I knew exactly how that would look online, like I was the villain in some viral wedding ruined by angry man video. Then the bride came storming over mid-ceremony, dress dragging, hair whipping in the wind, mascara already smudging. She looked ready to explode. "You could have just let us finish," she yelled. "It's one day asterisk. We're not hurting anyone." I pointed toward the sky, where a third chopper now hovered at a distance, waiting for the airspace to clear. "Tell that to the people trying to land £1,000. But she wasn't listening. Nobody was. The planner was crying. The DJ was packing up. The guests were split, some still sipping drinks and pretending everything was fine, others looking around nervously as the reality started to sink in. And then, over all the shouting and chaos, my phone buzzed with a new text from the helicopter company. It said, "Local authorities have been notified. Stay clear of the landing zone *." That's when I realized this was bigger than just an awkward wedding mix-up. Now it wasn't just a matter of people being rude. It was about safety, liability, and possibly shutting down an entire flight operation. The stakes had just gotten real, and no one out there knew what was coming next. The sound of sirens broke through the chaos before the helicopters did. A patrol car pulled up to the edge of the property, followed by a second one not long after. Just like that, the mood shifted. Guests froze mid-conversation. The bride's mouth dropped open. The groom, who had somehow managed to stay out of it until now, stepped away from the arch, his face pale. Two officers got out, calm but clearly not there to join the celebration. One of them approached me while the other headed straight toward the crowd. I explained everything, showed them the lease agreement on my phone, explained the helicopter schedule, and pointed out how the wedding party had set everything up without permission. The officer nodded slowly, glanced at the sky where the third helicopter was still holding position, and said, "Yeah, this is a problem." Meanwhile, the second officer was trying to speak to the bride and planner, who had completely melted down by this point. The guests were now either awkwardly walking back to their cars or standing around whispering, unsure of what to do. It was like watching the whole fantasy unravel in real time. Tablecloths tangled in chairs, decorations hanging half blown away, and the floral arch leaning sideways from the wind. The dream wedding had officially turned into a scene from a disaster movie. But then came the twist no one expected. As the officers started clearing the field and getting people to move, one of the helicopter crew members walked up with a clipboard in hand. He leaned in and quietly said, "You're not going to believe this, but the bride did know." I blinked. "What?" He flipped the page around, showing a printed email confirmation. It was from the bride's email address, sent weeks ago, inquiring about renting the field. She had gotten a quote, never responded, and apparently decided to just use it anyway, assuming no one would notice. That changed everything. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't miscommunication. It was intentional. She knew it was private land and still went ahead with her big day, counting on no one stopping her. And that's how a wedding became an actual police incident. A helicopter tour company nearly shut down, and I ended up with grass full of rose petals, half a cake in my driveway, and a story no one ever believes until they see the photos. In the end, the officers gave the wedding party two options: pack up immediately or face trespassing charges. That got everyone moving fast. Decorations were yanked down, chairs folded up in a panic, and the DJ pulled his equipment mid-song. The bride was still in shock, standing barefoot in the grass, her dream day literally blowing away in pieces. The groom didn't say much. He just helped carry the cake box to a van and avoided eye contact with everyone. The helicopters were finally able to land later that afternoon, though the company had to cancel a couple of bookings and refund some pretty upset customers. I felt bad for them. They were just trying to run their business and got caught in the middle of someone else's mess. The crew handled it like pros though, And we even joked later about turning the whole thing into a short film. As for the bride, I never saw her again. But a week later, I got a letter from a lawyer, hers. They tried to claim emotional distress, but the lease and the ignored email inquiry pretty much shut that down quick. Turns out when you knowingly crash someone else's property, it doesn't go over well in court. So now, every time I hear a helicopter overhead, I look out just to make sure no one's setting up folding chairs again. And if they are, well, I've got the lease framed on the wall and ready to go. I learned a lot from that weekend. Mainly, never underestimate how far someone will go to have their perfect moment, even if it means ignoring reality. And that sometimes the craziest stories don't come from faraway places or dramatic TV shows. They happen right in your own backyard, literally.